When you first dive into the C++ world, one of the first questions I always get from students is, wait a minute, am I doing standard C++ or is this some kind of weird, flavor kind of a thing? Well, first of all, you're going to be a little bit intimidated when you first look at this because there are flavors and different variations of not only the C language but actually C++. And I want to show you here how to make sure that you're working and playing in the standard C++ environment. Now, standard C++ conforms to the ISO standard for how the language should be used, how it should operate, how it should be compiled, and it's not tainted with vendor enhancements. Now, this is not really the big deal that it used to be, because very early on, way back in the early to mid-90s, people were putting out their own versions of database products, their own versions of word processors and so forth, and these things were absolutely totally incompatible with anything else out there on the market. Languages began to do the same thing, and we're still dealing with that a little bit. For example, if you've ever worked with databases, you have T-SQL or Transact SQL for writing SQL queries on the Microsoft platform, and then on some other platforms that were predecessors. Then you have PL SQL and you have PostgreSQL and so forth. So when you look at C++, you want to make sure that you're dealing with the standard. Well, the translation of that means that a non-standard C++ implementation will require a particular vendor's environment for the program to execute on and behave properly and so forth. Also, if you install the C++ program, you have to attach all kind of little doodads, I would call them. Those are a Southern technical term for additional little helper programs that have to run. So we want to stay away from that. We want to write standard straight up C++, and we want to know that we're doing that. Well, how do we know that? There's a very simple test that I wanted to throw into the course here that you can use, and this is from, and watch this name here, Bjarne Stroustrup. Okay, now that is the Tennessee pronunciation of a name that's obviously not from around here anywhere. Okay, and you can go out on the internet and you can actually find interviews with Bjarne, and he actually developed C++. And so his idea of a simple test to see if you're writing just standard straight C++ code can be found at www.2.research.att.com, and you can see the rest of it there. And Bjarne says that if an implementation cannot handle this simple program as written, it's not a good candidate for using standard C++. So if you go out there and you download a little development environment that looks cool, you need to load this little program into it, compile it, see if it runs without errors. This is what it looks like. Notice you have an include, a couple of includes, using namespace std, and then you have your main function here. Now, you don't have to copy this off the screen. If you will look in your work files folder, you will see a simple test file out there. It's a text document. Just copy that, paste it into your IDE, compile it, run it, debug it, however you do that, and it should just run. Now, this is going to run as a console application, and you're actually going to see this code run just like this when we do our little Hello World example in a separate video later on in the course. But this is a very easy way. You should grab that text document that I've got for you in work files, put it on your development machine somewhere, and if you're ever tempted to play around with another integrated development environment or another compiler, just simply drop this program in, see if it runs properly. If it throws you any errors, asks you any bizarre questions, then you know, hey, wait a minute, something kind of funky is going on here, and I'm probably not in a standard C++ environment anymore. So anyway, this is a simple test. Take this, stick it in your little programmer's toolkit out there, hang on to this code, and just use this. And again, came straight from the guy who developed the code, so we should assume it's pretty safe. This is going to verify that you're running in a standard C++ environment.